The wind howled like a pack of starving wolves outside my cabin door, whipping snow into a frenzy that blurred the line between earth and sky. It was the dead of a Wyoming winter in the Badlands, the kind that chews a man up and spits out his bones if he's not careful. I'd been holed up here on my remote spread for what felt like an eternity, tending to my cattle through the freeze, haunted by memories that no amount of whiskey could drown. My name's Caleb Hawk, and I'd lost my wife Emily to a fever 3 years back. She'd been the light in this God-forsaken isolation, and without her, the nights stretched long and empty, filled only with the creak of timber and the ghosts of what could have been. That pounding on the door came sudden and desperate. Jolting me from my chair by the fire, I grabbed my Colt from the mantel, thumbing back the hammer as I approached. "Who's out there?" I growled, my voice rough from disuse. A woman's voice cut through the storm, muffled but urgent. "Please, rancher, hide me. I'll repay you tonight." Gunfire cracked in the distance, sharp and ominous, like thunder chasing lightning. My heart slammed against my ribs. Outlaws in this weather? I cracked the door just enough to see her, a shadowy figure cloaked in worn buckskin. Her long dark hair plastered with snow, eyes wide with terror. She was beautiful in a wild, untamed way, like a Mustang caught in a snare. Behind her, the night swallowed everything. But I could hear the distant shouts of men on horseback, their curses carried on the gale, against every instinct screaming in my head. I yanked her inside and slammed the door shut, dropping the heavy bar into place. She stumbled against me, her body trembling from the cold or fear or both. "Who the hell are you?" I demanded, keeping the Colt trained on the shadows outside through the frosted window. "Sierra," she whispered, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "Sierra Blackwood. They're after me, outlaws hired by the sheriff in Deadwood. I didn't steal nothin', but they say I did. Please, just till the storm passes." I studied her in the firelight. She was half Comanche, that much was clear from the sharp angles of her face, the proud set of her jaw, and the beaded necklace peeking from her collar. Folks in these parts didn't take kindly to mixed blood, especially not a woman like her, fierce and unbowed. But there was vulnerability there too, in the way her hands clenched at her sides, like she was holding back a storm of her own. The gunfire faded, swallowed by the wind, but I knew better than to think they'd given up. "Repay me how?" I asked, my voice low, the words hanging heavy between us. Her promise echoed in my mind, stirring something I hadn't felt in years, a flicker of heat amid the cold loneliness. She met my gaze steadily, her dark eyes holding secrets I couldn't begin to unravel. "However you need," she said softly, but there was steel in it, not seduction. "A meal, mending your gear, or company through the night. Just don't turn me out." I lowered the gun, cursing my fool heart. Emily would have done the same always, the one with the soft spot for strays. I nodded toward the fire. "Warm yourself. But if those riders come back, you're on your own." She moved to the hearth, shedding her snow-crusted cloak, revealing a figure honed by hardship's strong shoulders, a narrow waist, curves that spoke of resilience rather than fragility. As she knelt by the flames, rubbing her hands together, I busied myself stoking the fire, trying to ignore the way her presence filled the small cabin. It had been too long since a woman stood here, and the air felt charged, like the moments before a lightning strike. We didn't speak much at first. I poured her a tin mug of coffee, black and strong, and she sipped it gratefully. Outside, the storm raged on, piling snow against the walls like nature's own barricade. But inside, a different tension built, the kind born of two strangers thrown together by fate, each carrying wounds that ran deep as the hours ticked by. She noticed the scar on my forearm, a jagged line from a cattle stampede last spring. "That looks fresh," she said, her voice gentle. "Let me see." I shrugged it off. "Old news. Healed wrong, but it'll do." She reached out anyway, her fingers cool against my skin as she traced the mark. I tensed, but didn't pull away. "My people have ways," she murmured. "Herbs that draw out the pain," from a pouch at her belt. She produced a small vial of salve, its scent earthy and sharp, like pine resin mixed with sage. She applied it with careful strokes, her touch awakening nerves I'd forgotten existed. It wasn't just the salve. It was her the way she focused, as if healing me was a sacred act. "Tell me about your people," I said, my voice huskier than intended. The loneliness had gnawed at me for so long, and here was someone listening, really listening. She smiled faintly, a curve of her lips that softened her fierce beauty. Comanche blood runs strong in me. My mother taught me the old ways: tracking, healing, surviving when the world turns against you. But the settlers? They took our land piece by piece. That's why I'm running. The sheriff claims I stole deeds from his office, but it's a lie. Those papers prove my family's claim to a valley up north, stolen years ago. Her words stirred something in me, a mix of sympathy and wariness. Land disputes were blood feuds in these parts, and getting tangled in one could end a man quick. But as she spoke, whispering tales of starry nights on the plains and the freedom of riding wild, I felt a crack in the ice around my heart. Emily had loved stories like that, dreaming of adventures beyond our ranch. Sierra's voice wove a spell, pulling me from my grief, if only for a moment. That night, as the fire died to embers, she kept her word in a way I hadn't expected. Not with empty promises, but with quiet companionship. We sat shoulder to shoulder on the worn rug, sharing a blanket against the chill seeping through the logs. Her head leaned against my arm, and for the first time in years, the silence didn't feel oppressive. It felt shared. My mind raced with questions. Who was she really? What debt tied her to that land? And why did her touch feel like a lifeline in the dark? But sleep came fitful, haunted by dreams of Emily's fevered face, morphing into Sierra's determined one. I woke before dawn. The storm abated to a whisper, only to hear the crunch of boots in the snow outside. Outlaws. They hadn't given up. I bolted upright, grabbing my rifle from beside the bed. Sierra was already awake, her eyes alert, knife in hand. "They're here," she whispered, peering through a crack in the shutters. I counted 3 shadows circling the cabin, their breaths pluming in the cold air. One, a burly man with a scarred face, pounded on the door. "We know you're in there, half-breed. Come out, or we'll burn this place down with you in it." My blood boiled. No one threatened my home. I signaled Sierra to stay low and slipped out the back, using the barn for cover. The snow muffled my steps as I flanked them. The first one never saw me coming. I swung a hay hook from the shadows, catching his arm and disarming him with a brutal twist. He grunted, swinging a wild punch, but I was faster, my fist connecting with his jaw in a satisfying crack. We tumbled into the snow, trading blows like animals. My raw strength, born of years wrangling steers, overpowering his drunken rage. He went down hard, blood staining the white ground, but his partners heard the scuffle. Gunfire erupted, bullets whizzing past as I dove behind a woodpile. Sierra burst from the cabin then, rifle in hand, my rifle. Damn it, firing a shot that grazed one shoulder. "Get back inside." I yelled, but she held her ground, her aim steady as a rock. The fight turned chaotic. I rolled out, drawing my Colt, and squeezed off 2 rounds. One outlaw dropped, clutching his leg, while the other fled into the trees, cursing. My chest heaved, adrenaline pumping, the cold air burning my lungs. Sierra rushed to me, her hands checking for wounds. "You're bleeding," she said, pressing a cloth to a gash on my knuckles. "It's nothing," I muttered. But her touch lingered, our eyes locking in the pale dawn light. In that moment, amid the steam of our breaths mingling, I felt a spark raw, undeniable. Her resilience mirrored my own pain, a silent understanding that we were both survivors in a world that broke people. We dragged the wounded outlaw inside, tying him up by the fire. He spat at Sierra, calling her names that made my fists clench anew. "Sheriff Vonsel, have your hide for this," he snarled. "She's a thief and a savage. Folks in Deadwood say she's bewitched men before, left 'em dead in ditches." I backhanded him silent. "Shut your mouth." But his words planted seeds of doubt. Who was Sierra really? That cryptic promise of repayment, the way she handled a gun like she'd been born to, and what secrets hid behind those dark eyes? As the sun climbed, we buried the dead outlaw shallow in the frozen ground, No time for ceremony in the Badlands. Sierra worked beside me, her silence heavy. "Thank you," she said finally, as we stamped down the earth. "For hiding me. For fighting." I wiped sweat from my brow, despite the chill. "Don't thank me yet. If the sheriff's involved, this ain't over." My mind whirled with the implications. Sheriff Vance was a corrupt snake, known for lining his pockets with land grabs. If Sierra's family had claims he wanted buried, we'd just painted targets on our backs. That afternoon, old Tom Riley, my nearest neighbor, grizzled rancher with a limp from the war, up on his mule, bundled against the cold. He'd heard the shots from his spread 5 miles off. "Caleb, boy, what kind of trouble you staring?" he asked, dismounting with a groan. His eyes narrowed at Sierra, suspicion flickering. "And who's this?" "Sierra Blackwood," I introduced, watching his reaction. Tom was a good man, but like most in these parts, he carried the prejudices of the frontier Indians, or trouble. Mixed blood even more so, he grunted, spitting tobacco juice into the snow. "Heard talk in town about a woman like her. Sheriff says she's wanted for rustlin' deeds. You sure you ain't harborin' a viper?" Sierra met his gaze unflinching. "The viper's the one wearing the badge, Mr. Riley. My family's land was stolen fair and square by men like him." Tom chuckled dryly. "Spirited one, ain't she? Well, Caleb, watch your back. Vance has got outlaws on payroll, and they don't quit easy." He clapped my shoulder before riding off, leaving me with more questions than answers. As evening fell, Sierra and I shared venison stew by the fire, the cabin feeling smaller, more intimate. I found myself opening up, words spilling out like they'd been damned too long. Emily. She was everything to me. Fever took her quick, left me hollow, like this land after a drought. My voice cracked, emotion raw. Sierra listened, her hand covering mine. "Loss carves us, but it doesn't define us," she said softly. "My people say the spirits guide us through the pain, to something stronger,